You get away with it. Peter Kirkham is a former Detective Chief Inspector in the Met. Afternoon to you, Peter. I'm sure when you first pounded the beat many years ago, I say that kindly, of course, this would have been, you know, clearly an arrestable offence. You turn up, you know, the shop security or the shop staff have got the shoplifter, you guys show up, you arrest them, away you go to the police station. They might get a caution, but nonetheless, it seemed to have been taken more seriously than it currently is.
It certainly was, but then again, we operated in very different times in the 80s and the 90s. Even though we were short of officers in a lot of ways, we were not inundated with such demands for police service as we have now. And so, yes, shoplifting got more of a response from the police than it does now.
Yeah. And it's changed as well, hasn't it? Because you now have this sort of group shoplifting thing where, you know, you get gangs of kids. I know there was the kids that have done the sweet shops and things like that. And I think one of the sports shops in Oxford Street was... they narrowly escaped one of these social media organised thieving frenzy, essentially. So there's a difference right there, Peter.
There is, and that, I think, reflects changes in our society. Some of which have been brought about by policing policy over the 13 years or so, where successive Tory-led governments reduced the numbers of police so that there was simply not a presence of police officers in public space. So if you walk down the high street, you didn't see a uniformed police officer or even a PCSO.
Yeah.
And we've now got a whole generation of young people who've grown up not seeing police officers around. And so respect for law and order, for want of a better description, has it been eroded. And like I say, that's partly due to a government decision, as well as the more general thing about lack of respect for adults generally in all contexts.
And it's quite hard to, you know, these kids, you know, they run into a shop with a balaclava over their face. They steal, you know, $3 grand's worth of phones or designer glasses in one case, and never seen again. I mean, it's hard to even begin to know how you'd catch somebody unless you happen to be a cop sitting around the corner. I mean, it's almost impossible.
Well, there's very limited opportunities if they've got their faces covered and they're wearing gloves, so avoiding any sort of fingerprints.
Yep.
You're not going to have any starters for 10 there from either identification by witnesses or from CCTV or from a crime scene examination.
True.
The real way into groups that are acting in that way is either by identifying a pattern and hopefully being there next time they go out to play and taking them out as they perform, or alternatively, they have problems getting rid of so much material that then comes to light. It's not just a case of spreading it out amongst their family and friends. They have to look wider than that, and then the word gets out and word gets back to the police eventually. And so those are the ways that they tend to get arrested.
Of course. Do you sense that this is going to improve? I mean, you know, the idea that you now get asked if you want to go in a shop and they unlock the door, kind of pull it open a little bit, see who's there, let you in, lock it behind you. I mean, that's a terrible indictment on where we're at as a species, isn't it?
It's a very bad indictment of where we're at as a society. And there are lots of others as well. Personally, I think we are suffering from having been treated as an economy since Maggie Thatcher in the 70s. Rather than a society, and those are two different things. And we've looked at how we operate as an economy, and we've forgotten about the things that make us good as a society, and so we end up where we are.
Yeah,
I mean, we've always had those sorts of arrangements in place at places like jewelers' shops. They would have airlock doors with a pair of doors sometimes.
Yeah.
And certainly would release the door to let you in, but for that to be done on a larger scale in a wider range of stores is a surprise, I must admit. I'm not sure it's the answer.
Indeed. Peter, thank you. I can hear the exasperation in Peter Kirkham's voice there. He's a former Chief Inspector in the Met Police. It was done differently back in the day. I will always defend that point.